All right, this isn't even to critique what. Just let him cook. So it's his new channel. Does he still go by Setsu Two Cents? I don't know, but he should, because that was the name that I knew him by. But new channel because it was Setsu Games. It was Setsu Two Cents when he was talking about news, and no, none of that is really important because it's not even a critique of his video. The point of me all pointed out is like I know his name, I know of him, and I agree with what everything he's saying. It's just the framing of what mainstream media in the West got wrong. It isn't that it isn't just that they lost the trust of the viewers. No, it is that they lost the trust of the viewers, but the reason why they lost the trust of the viewers is because the guy he's about to show, he's a zealot. Like he believes that pushing the progressive agenda was making the world a better place. Now, the way it's being pushed, like, cause he's seen this, like in video games and entertainment, and now also in politics. I think he's seen it the same way that I have, and other YouTubers I've been noticing have been seeing that it's crossed into several different, not genres, several different social areas. Like it's always with a social spin, and that's how they work it into different areas of lying to people and telling them that what they're doing will save somebody's life, will help a marginalized person not commit suicide, or like make somebody feel seen. It will put a atypical story in front of a wider audience. Like there's always a social angle to it, and then when it's commercial, they'll not lie about it because it is good. They are going to push it to a wider audience, but when it doesn't take, that's when the lie comes in because they'll say they're sexist, they're racist, they don't just like a good idea. And it's not that the idea is poorly constructed, that will never come out of their mouth. In the same way that this guy cannot see the world differently, in that racism does have an effect, there are racist people, but it is the ideological bent to his message and the mainstream media's message that's the problem. Is that they're saying you have to focus on these specific areas, you have to focus on intersectionality, and they never say it. You have to focus on social, no, reciprocity is not, I don't know the small word for that. You have to focus on social equality. You have to focus on how these different groups play into each other and the power dynamics. You have to focus on the power dynamics. It's not that the power dynamics are an element of the total discussion, that if you're going to affect a situation that you need to have a view of everything that is involved in it. They focus purely on power. And that has to be pointed out, that it is an ideological, I keep saying bent, and I think I need to come up with a better word for it. But they are, for want of a better word, dyed in the wool cultists. They believe what they're pushing. They have no, they do have a God, but it's like they have an obsession. I think that's a good way to round it up. They do have an obsession, and you can define it to them. It's just you're taking away a sacred thing, so of course they're going to complain about it. So, yeah, I think that's the root of the whole critique I'm trying to come up with. Is that I feel like people are not pointing out that the people that they're trying to critique believe the thing they've been pushing. They're believers. They're like, this is their God. Like, whenever you ever, no, it's like, just not everybody has done it. I'm talking about an idea here, but have you ever heard of a zealot being talked down when they have their target in mind? It's like a dog with a bone. Like, they have the thing that they want and they've sunken their teeth into it. Why do you think they're going to let go? It's the same thing with power in politics. They thought they had a route to rebalance the world, to change it so that it would be more fair, more equitable. But then even their idea of fairness and equality isn't realistic. So they could never achieve what they were aiming for. That's what makes them a zealot. They have a pure view of an absolute view of the world that did not come about, and now they have no idea how to view the world. Now, the people that they've been lying to are the disenfranchised voters that aren't paying attention to mainstream media. But they aren't the problem. You need to figure out how to talk to the zealots. Talk to or marginalize the zealots. For want of a better word, they either need to be institutionalized or talked down off the ledge. And this, it's like I was saying, this is an example of somebody like that.
Republic. But I mean, I don't know how much this is gonna do because I don't really think they understand. Like, I genuinely don't. I don't think they know the reason. Like, they're trying to fix a problem, but they don't know the origin. They don't know where it's coming from. And you can tell with clips like this.
There's this sense, right, that whiteness, right, is under threat. The demographic shifts. The country isn't what all of these racially ambiguous children on Cheerios commercials are confusing the hell out of me.
Eddie, a lot of people voted because their life's too damn expensive, and it was here, and
They voted for. You're telling me, Stephanie, that all of these people who believe that their lives are, that bread is too high and eggs are too high, that they voted for a convicted fella, a guy who said we can grab the pea.
I think that a lot.
See, and that is a clear example of what I'm talking about. If the only people available were a guy you were sure was already fucking up your life, and another guy that's going to enrich himself but might fuck your life less, who do you think they're going to vote for? I think that one is already easy to go by. And grab him by the pussy. I can't come up with a... I refuse to think of a better way to summarize this than the exact honest way. Whores exist, and yes, you can grab them by the pussy and they will let you. It's male and female, the whore comment, but particularly on the women part, the part he was talking about, power and status. People gravitate towards power and status. The stereotype is women. In this stereotypical example, you would be denying reality if you think that debasing themselves by letting somebody grab them by the pussy is any more unbelievable than them willing to transform themselves and be able to where the fuck they need to be to get into that person's pocket. Gold diggers are a thing. He was talking about gold diggers. You're actually trying to deny reality and say he wasn't talking about a subset of humanity. He was talking about it on the female side, so okay, yeah, he could have made it gender neutral. Okay, maybe that. But other than that, he was speaking the truth. It's crass, it's crude, it's base, and it's not something you should probably say in polite company. Fine. But other than that, what was wrong with what he said? And you have him spurting out as in that was a linchpin in the argument. That simply because he's a crass, crude motherfucker who would say that kind of thing, you shouldn't have voted for him over Biden. So what I mean by a zealot, like, he is dedicated to the idea that the Democratic Party was making the world a better and fairer place, and the Republican Party is purely evil.
Voted for this guy.
I'm not defending it, but I think there are tons of people that don't pay attention to, and I'm not defending it, don't pay attention to politics at all. But while we live in the most prosperous country in the world, people are saying, life's not fair, I'm not doing well, my son's still living in the basement, I can't seem to get a job, I don't like the status quo, I'm voting for something else, and he was
I
the person.
love you to life,
I love you,
but I do not believe that.
See? And then, like, it goes through layers. I do not believe it. And he's about to say, I cannot believe it. The first part is where you can negotiate with him. The second part, that's where you got to give him to give up his God. You cannot believe that someone would have an opposite view to you. That somebody with views you abhor would still work out. No, so would still act in a way that makes the world better for both. Yeah, see, that's the word it would come down to. You think they're evil. No, they just have a different opinion than you do. Proving that is probably going to be difficult, but So yeah, I do not believe it.
Cannot believe that. And the
Crazy
reason I
fucker.
think you believe it is because you don't want to believe that that's what's really motivating them.
So yeah,
And then that's another thing you will come across with people with religious thinking there's are witches or demons going about. Like, you don't want to believe that evil exists. No, I just know that, okay, let's put it in the pure good and evil. If demons actually existed, there would be ways to hunt them. You cannot tell me that is not possible. Our species would come up with a way of hunting them back. I may be being naive there, but that goes with the whole good and evil view of the world. Reason I don't believe in God is that I can't really believe in evil because we would have found a way to fight back. Not saying that it would have been absolute, because of course, powers beyond your understanding, you can't really contend with it. I get that idea. But the part of the idea that I don't agree with is that we would not have some division for fighting them back. There would be like an international bounty system where like every demon head will give you whatever amount. We have poachers, and you're trying to tell me that our species wouldn't hunt demons. If there's profit in it, and there's clearly a entity out there that just abhors our existence, wants to stuff it out in its entirety, and you're trying to tell me there wouldn't be some kind of bounty system on that kind of entity and its followers, I refuse to believe that. I can't believe that. See, and that's where my religious beliefs come in. I believe that if you give people the opportunity, they'll do good. They'll also do evil if you give them an opportunity. It's a mixed bag. But you understand the creature you're dealing with, you can, mediate the environment. Take out the things they're afraid of, give them more knowledge and information, give them tools, and they tend to work out all right. You take your hands off the scales, people tend to do all right. So, back to the zealots. And the point I hope people are getting around to, you're talking to zealots. First, you got to talk them down off the ledge. Not the ones that they're pushing in front of them. Not the herd they're scaring. The herd's already starting to turn against them. You need to go to the people that are whipping up the herd and making them afraid. And some of them you're just going to have to smack aside and ignore. Some of them you can talk down. So if you're making the attempt to talk them down, first you need to acknowledge that they're zealots.
notice the wording there. He does not believe it. And not only that, he cannot believe it. He absolutely refuses to accept that the only reason that anybody could not vote the way he wanted them to is they have to be racist. Now, mind you, he started off the statement explicitly saying that it's white people thinking they're at risk. But we looked at the numbers. You showed us the numbers. We all saw that.
So, just a brief break. I'm going to get through this so I can actually make the video and finish it. But I think that's another sign of what he's actually afraid of, because at least from college-educated people, ethnical whiteness and cultural whiteness aren't the same thing in their head, even though they interchange the word. Like, they'll say a person is whiteness. No, they say a person is whiteness. They'll say a person is racist because they're white. But they will more mean it because they have white ideas in his head, like the whole Larry Elder thing. For want of a better word, the whole Uncle Tom thing. I feel like I should be saying more, but not that. It's another self-evident point, I think. Just another piece on the board.
That it was not explicitly white people who voted for Donald Trump. So I don't understand how you can keep throwing this narrative out there that the only explanation could be racism. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And
also it goes back into their old playbook of trying to get allies through, well, the cursed word, saying the name, what is it? He who must not be named. Like, you would just you don't want to be a racist, do you? You don't want to align with the bad people, do you? Then you should be doing what I'm doing because I'm a good person.
also too, once again, regardless of if there's a racist component to it, which I'm sure there is with a lot of voters, but definitely not significant enough to turn an election. All of these
Ignorance
people, when you
exists,
look at
yes.
them, have a history of voting for Obama. They have a history of voting Democrat against Trump in the last election that he lost. So, like, the fact that these people are too stupid to understand that issues change.
See, and that's where I think the shift is. They're not stupid. Well, they're not stupid. They're ignorant. And unfortunately, it's a product of their college education. They think just because they've sat down and taking a class on a thing, that class was geared towards informing them. Some of the classes have not been, particularly in college. If it's STEM, it's okay. But any of these social, soft sciences are... Actually, see, yeah, STEM is immune to the same social contagion that you will find in the other disciplines. It's because there's no binary to the other ones. STEM is binary. 2 plus 2 is 4. Like, math builds on itself. I think it goes from arithmetic to not algebra. I forget how it goes, but it goes from like the basic math, the more complicated math, to ultra complicated math, up into theoretical or not fake numbers, something numbers. Math gets very complicated. I wish I could put it down better than that, and I just didn't sound like a dumbass, just rumbling over words. I do know my maths, but besides the point. Everything else builds on itself. The STEM fields are binary. They're static. You understand one level, and the other levels you learn build off of and reinforce that first level. And it's all sequential. That's sequential. Yeah. We'll just go over sequential. The social sciences, on the other hand, are heavily susceptible to social influence. Just because somebody doesn't like what you're saying, they might change it. Or they might be like, necessarily don't really know if maybe we have an idea. There's a lot of wiggle room. So, just because they're college educated, they are under the delusion that their college education is worth more than a paper it's printed on. I think. Talking about arrogant people being very arrogant about it, but...
Everybody in the world is, or everybody in the U.S. is an individual with their own individual lives who have things that they are worried about, and they just they can't get their mind. They're like, look, we are a dogmatic religious cult. The only reason that we do anything is for the narrative. That's
and
it.
They don't know
there
that.
is nothing else. We are a cult.
See, that's it. I've heard people say this before, and that is it. You need to take that line and then understand. You're right that that's what they are. And they don't know that. Like, think about any other religious person. Do they actually know that does a Bible thumper know their Bible thumper? Or do they think you're denying the Word of God?
That's how we do everything. There is always an explanation, and the explanation is the narrative. And I will not acknowledge anybody behaving outside of the narrative that we set. These are the rules that we made. These are the lies that we told. This was the indoctrination that we used, and we can't fathom that people are not being controlled by our lies and indoctrination. We did a really good job lying to you. We did a really good job manipulating the narrative. How can you say that there are people out there who are not being brainwashed by us effectively? I refuse to believe it, because it's always worked. Our manipulation has always worked. Our lies and our slander and our misinformation has always worked. So I refuse to believe right now that you are telling me that our indoctrination is not effective anymore. That's exactly what he's saying. But
and that is a good framing of it, in that you've got to change it to where they don't think they're being manipulative. They don't think that they're putting an idea in people's heads. They don't think they're changing anything. They get into the whole woke thing. They think they're waking up. They're thinking they're acquiring a view of the world that's more inclusive, more fair, and more equitable. They believe it. So you've got to treat them as such. Every time you think about their beliefs, you got to think about it in the terms of religion, of an absolute, as in an absolute. I don't know how that's the word. You have to think that you have to know that they believe it, and then it explains everything else. Like their behavior, at least to me, makes perfect sense once I think about a religious person. That beyond a certain point, beyond their personal walk with God, you can't dissuade a religious person from what they believe in, because there's always going to be that core violation that they would have to go through to not rely, use on, or find comfort in God in the way that they do. There's a personal component of it that no matter what you say to them, they're not really going to give up. And they shouldn't, because it's a function for them. It's like any other social ritual that they've participated in before. It's the same thing with now that Thanksgiving and Christmas are rolling around. People aren't going to go hang out with their families and do the whole get together and exchange stories. That really should. I'm not trying to say that it shouldn't change or it's comparable to. It's like that is a ritual, and you can see that it is weird that they're no longer going to participate in it. I think that was kind of my point. It's weird that they're no longer going to participate in it. So you shouldn't see it weird that they're no longer going to try to, in essence, preach the gospel. Like they're still going to try to spread their message and talk about fairness, equity. They're going to still be talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're still going to try to push the marginalized out into the open because it gains them more power. Like I don't know if they're actually looking at it like that, but they do believe that they're the champion of the downtrodden. They believe they have an accurate view of the world that will make it more fair for particularly the marginalized people, but then themselves as well and everybody else. And they believe they will be celebrated for it. No.
Just like...
Yeah, like any other religious person. Because I'm pretty sure, like, if you go to any church, and if they actually saw more... Okay, this one is self-evident. To any Christian, if you go up to a Christian and ask him, would it be a better world if there were more Christians? Of course they would say yes. It's like any religious sect, they're going to want to spread their own word and their own message because they think of it as a good thing. And it makes sense that they would think of it as a good thing. So in this instance, you also have to see that since they thought they were making the world a better place, and yeah, and politically the tide has turned against the direction they were going in, of course they're going to think of it as evil. So you got to put it in the same terms that they have. You have to give up your God. You thought this was a view of the world that was accurate, fair. No. Actually, you just have to leave them to cook and keep talking to their, not disciples, their the people that are disenfranchised with the message, the people that are actually able to see the in-between. Like you've got to tell them that they are religious zealots. Like they think they're delivering a better vision of the world, and you've got to point out how inaccurate it is, the holes that are in it. Because it might be impossible. I mean, once somebody is to the full belief that you either see and it's not even the way that they see it. It's like they've taken on a view of the world that does not allow any subtlety, nuance, or variation. They are entirely black and white thinkers, which you can't. The world is not binary. Science is binary, yes. The who, what, where, and when of the world, the 4 W's, that's binary. Anything else you can observe off of the world? Negotiable. 4, it's concrete. It's like dimensions on a map. No, it's not dimensions. It's like coordinates on a map. It's like dimensions in space. It's finite. It's fixed.
Like I said, once again, they're gonna be trying to put forth solutions to solve a problem that they can't even identify, and it's not gonna work. Laying these people off is not really the right move. And I know some people might support this and say, yeah, they should lay them off, they should lose their jobs. No, they should encourage them to start being truthful. They should encourage them to start apologizing to the people who they've demonized. They should encourage them to start.
And like I said, I feel like that would be the same thing as trying to take someone who... Can you take a Christian and turn them into a Satanist? Especially because they don't, like, most Christians don't even get what a Satanist is. Like, you would have to, because you can't get them to switch to different religions. That's happened before. Jewish will go to Christian, Christian will go to Jewish or Muslim, Muslim will shut up because their own will kill them. You have them flipping and switching back and forth between all 3 groups. Well, 2 groups. Gotta be honest, it's really only 2. You either leave Islam or you either go to Islam and stay, or people do live Islam, but they tend to not talk because there's a whole tends to get rather hot where you have those kind of discussions. But that is a whole nother thing that needs to be taken care of eventually. But religious thinking, like, you've got to approach them where they
are doing their jobs
Winding
correctly.
down.
Don't fire these people and just hire a bunch of new idiots to start carrying the torch for your indoctrination. That's not the move. You need to shift.
And that's why I think I'll leave it. They don't think they're indoctrinating people. They think they're speaking the truth. And I'm going to listen to the rest of this video, but like my actual video, I leave it here. Give it the button. Give it the button.